Hi everybody and welcome back to Danstew Station. Quite a lot has happened since the last update. A lot of progress has been made on the layouts and a lot of things as well on the making of the videos. First and foremost, the camera that I'm using is a new one that I've just bought. It's ready for a holiday in August that I'm going on with my family, and I wanted to get a really nice good camera that can get a nice wide field of view, just so I can capture as much of it as I possibly can, because it's quite a big important holiday. So I bought it's an action camera, the Sony FDR X3000R. I've researched a lot of cameras and found this was the best one, and I've also found this really good for filming Danstew Station. And because it's an action cam and it's really small and quite thin, it's about the same size as a train. So I'm able to put it on the carriage and actually get some footage as the trains go around, which I'll show you later in the video. So yes, so I'm practicing with this, and as you can see, it gives you a nice wide field of view, so you can see the mallard running around me at the moment, which is quite cool. That's why I'm trying to talk loud, to make sure the sound of the train doesn't drown me out. Second thing that's different is I've also invested in a bit of a more up-to-date, high-tech, I suppose you could say, video editor. I used to just use one on my phone, Power Director, which was a fantastic editor. It worked absolutely fine. But I've invested in a better one for my laptop, so I can just get a little bit more control over what I film and what I show and things like that. So with that, because I'm using two different sort of things, if you notice anything in the video, or if anything's a bit off, or any sort of hints, tips or anything like that, please leave a comment down below, let me know. These are all new, so I'm still kind of finding out the best way to do things and film things, so that would be great. As you'll see around me, quite a lot has changed and a lot is being updated, especially the greenery behind me. That's all to come. Everything that you're going to see in this video has already been put together, it's already been edited, I've already done it all. So that's why there's a lot around me that's kind of, spoiler alert. So with that, a lot of the footage is kind of progressed. However, there are some bits that are filmed and they're a bit out of sequence. So for example, you might see some progress on scenery, then you'll watch another section where that scenery hasn't been done yet. That's because that footage was done before, not that I've taken it apart or anything. It's just basically I've tried to put it together in a way that it flows a bit better and on the same subject, because I did kind of chop and change as I was going along. But anyway, enough of me rambling on. We'll get on to the update and you can see what progress I've been making, and I hope you enjoy it. Take care everyone, see you soon.
And so there we go, it's all been brushed off and hoovered. A lot of the excess has now been removed, and yeah, looking a lot cleaner. Also made sure to kind of hoover it from the tracks here to make sure there was none left on the top there. So yeah, just means I need to continue along to that section now. And in doing that, I've managed to save quite a lot of grass, as you can see. This wasn't all from this section. I did have about that much left from the previous. So as you can see, I saved about half a jar there, and with the gravel, not a great deal, but still managed to save quite a bit. And this is what I use to kind of store all my bits of scenic that I save, or bits that I've used or that I've mixed up, just from when my boys were babies, and every time we gave them a jar of the food, I just kept the jars. I've got a whole drawer full of these, so it's proved very useful. So that's pretty much all I use. So what we're going to do now is give this a coat of diluted down PVA, stick some more rough grass on there, a bit of static grass as well, just to tone it up a little bit. But before I do that, I'm going to do around this side, so then I can just do all of it at the same time. And I think I'm going to pretty much take it to kind of probably where the mud ends there. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing in that section, whether to keep it grassed or pave it and put some waste bits. I'm not quite sure yet, but if I take the grass to there, then my options are still open. So we've given this a nice coat of the scatter, and yeah, really pleased with how that's come out so far. I've taken it all the way over to here, where that lovely little horse is. I've always said I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do from this point on, so I kind of end the grass there. I might blend it into more grass, might be concrete, might be balt. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do in this area. It's kind of an awkward area because it's between tracks, so it's not like anything could gain access there. I mean, the horse is there, but it's not like it's going to actually be staying there, because where would it have come from and where exactly is it going to go? Yeah, overall I'm really pleased with this, because I've always kind of focused on the other section and not really on this section, so to have this green now is great. And then what I'm going to do here is to put some soil down, some nice long static grass, just make it look wild and rough. There's going to be a few trees in there. It's kind of a section that'll never get touched by human hands really, except for railway engineers coming to maintain the railway. So I might put some bits of a couple of sleepers and maybe a bit of track that's been left over that they've left behind in amongst all the grass. But yeah, that's pretty much my plan for this section. But yeah, I love the look of this now and how that kind of looks. It's nice and green now. It's kind of blending everything together. So yeah, I'm happy, coming along nicely. You may remember from a previous layout that I did that when I had the trains running, I only had 2 carriages, and I was saying it was because the steams were struggling with the gradient. So yeah, if I set Mallard here off now, I just move over here and show you. So he'd be leaving the station from there. He wouldn't be going backwards. I need to put it the right way around. But he'd be leaving the station there. With some good speed. Just need a bit of oil in there. I can hear him squeaking a little bit. But yeah, it starts to get up the gradient and starts to slow. It's when he gets to that point with the castle, yeah, that's when they start to slip. They do have traction tyres on as well. When I say they, I mean like all my engines have traction tyres on. But yeah, it gets to that point and just starts to struggle. And yeah, so that's pretty much the problem I've got with all of the locos. And the Mallard here is tender driven, the rest of them are locomotive driven. But what I did was a bit of experimenting with the Mallard. a couple of weeks back, I put some solder tips onto the tender just to add a little bit more weight, because they do all have traction tyres as well. They just get to that point they start wheel spinning. So I put some solder tips on, and once I got quite a couple of them on, she started running around beautifully, pulling 3 carriages absolutely fine. So with that, I went and I've picked up some of these balance weight strips. Now these were showcased on Dave's YouTube channel, and he put them onto the bottom of some of the carriages. So what I'm planning to do is I'm going to stick a couple on top of the tender just for now, just to find out how many I would need to get the train running nicely, and then I can pop them inside the tender where there should be quite a bit of room, stick them onto the sides and so on, and hopefully that will help, and then I can do that with all of the locos and get them running up the hill nicely. So I'm going to have a play around with it now, have a little test and see how many would be required to get it running just nicely. I mean, I don't want a great deal of carriages. I don't ever plan on having more than 3 or 4. Just with the size of the layout, the way it is, I don't want it being, by the time the trains kind of come around here, over the hill and into the tunnel, that the back of the train is just coming up the bottom of the hill. It just wouldn't look right. For the size of the scenic section that I've got, it just wouldn't look right. I mean, I definitely don't want it where train starts going into there, and just as it finishes, it then pops out the tunnel over here. It's, you know, I want them to be behind the scenes for a short period of time before you see them again. So yeah, so I don't have a plan on having them pull in a large rake of coaches. It's just going to be 3 at the most of the times, maybe 4 every now and again. Mainly as well because this is where the station is going to be, so if we have any more than 3 or 4, it's just not going to look very good. So yeah, so that's all I need. So I'm going to have a play around, and we'll see how it goes. So we've had a bit of a test run. I put 30 grams on to begin with. I thought maybe that would be enough, which was basically one of these strips, which we equal 30 grams. She did go up the hill, but still struggled. It still got to where the castle is and started to slow down and the wheel spin, but did make it up in the end. So I put another strip on there, and now it makes it up there really nicely, and I'll show you that now. At quite a low speed as well, just to make sure that it can make it up even on the slower setting. And there you can see we get to that point usually and start wheel spinning, and it is obviously slowing down quite a bit more than it is set up. However, mix it up there really nicely. And then I'll get to the top and then start to speed up just a little bit more. Not a great deal. It's running a lot better. You may hear the squeaking as well. I've noticed that while I've been doing this. It's not the mallard itself. I was a bit concerned because I've already kind of worked on that, so I was surprised that it was squeaking. It's the carriages. These ones I haven't ran for a little while, so yeah, the wheels start to squeak a bit. I'll be getting them oiled and getting them sorted. But yeah, so that's worked out really nicely. So 2 strips. I'm hoping the size of them as well, they should hopefully kind of go either side of the tender, kind of like that. And even if not, I could get a couple on the top, a couple around the sides, distribute the weight around quite a little bit just to get my lad running again. But yeah, we're going to do that with all of the locos and try and get them all running nicely. I'll put a link in the description as well as to where I got these from, and I couldn't find them on eBay. I had to go directly to a company, but they were sent out really quickly. I think actually I ordered these and they arrived the following day. I was really surprised. Really good price as well, and really good distribution time. So yeah, so I was really happy. So yeah, I'm pleased with that, because that's always been something that's concerned me, that the gradient has never been too high. I made sure that it was a nice steady increase, because I know that steam struggle on inclines. Electrics and diesels always seem to manage to get up there very easily because they're usually a lot heavier. The wheels are just the way they're powered and everything. and they seem to manage a lot better, whereas steam trains do struggle. So yeah, so that should hopefully help it out. So I'm going to do that with all the locos, and that should definitely work. Okay, so we've got some PVA down on this ground over here, and what I'm going to do first is put some soil down before I put down the static grass, just to give it a little bit more texture underneath the grass. You'll also notice previously that while I was doing the edges of the embankment around the side there, I also went over all of this again. That was basically, every time I looked at it, it just looked, it looked too thin, just didn't look thick enough. So I've given it a good second coat now, and much happier with it. It's a nice thick coat. I've got a little bit of scatter on there as well. It's not quite glued down, this is still drying. But once I kind of give it a spray, put some diluted PVA in and get the static grass growing from certain sections, that'll all stick down. So yes, I'm happy with that. But we'll get the soil down, see how that looks. And this is the soil I'll be using for the campsite ground. I've got some Jarvis Scatter Dark Brown and also some Dark Earth. So I'm going to mix them two together and scatter them on, see how they go. So that's the soil down, and yeah, very pleased with that. That just looks so much more realistic. I'm not sure why I've never thought of using soil before. It's one of those things that I've just never really thought of. I just thought of painting the ground and then putting grass on top of it. But the soil does add that bit of texture underneath, especially as I'm planning to have patches of grass which are being worn away, especially under the swing set, where the kids' feet scrape the grass away. So yeah, I'm not quite, yeah, as I say, I'm not quite sure why I never thought of soil, and I do kind of regret not putting soil on this bit here, but it should still work fine. But yeah, I'm pleased with that, so I'm going to leave that to dry, and then once it's all dry, we'll get some static grass down. And so here we have the soil laid down this section, and really pleased with how this went. Much happier than with the campsite laying. And just basically used a technique that is definitely not new or groundbreaking in any way. It's on Luke Towan's page. I'll put a link in my description for anyone who hasn't seen it. I recommend definitely watching it. I was basically getting to the point where I was struggling to figure out what is the best way to lay scenic, what is the best way to kind of get this scenic down and get it staying down and looking good. I was just getting a little bit, what is the best way? So yeah, I looked just around YouTube, found Luke Towan's pages. I was already subscribed to him as well, but just missed that. So watered down the PVA 3 times. Usually what I've done, especially when laying ballast, it's always a 50-50 mix. But yeah, watered it down 3 times with the washing up liquid as usual. Then put the wet water on top, and then put the liquid PVA back on top of that so that it soaks in. So yeah, so I've given that a go, and so far, I mean, it's still wet, still drying at the moment, but it just looks a lot thicker than it does on say this side. So it's a bit patchy and it's a little bit faded in areas. So yeah, and I was able to get right up into the crevice of the ballast there as well, which I was really pleased with that. So yeah, I'll put a link down at the description. I'm sure it's nothing new. It's definitely not anything new, but just happened to come across that video, and it has really helped. So hopefully this is really going to work on this section. That being said, this section will still stay the same. I'm not going to relay the soil because this is basically going to have static grass over it, so it's not really going to make much of a difference. That is the next thing I'm going to do. I'm just preparing the static grass applicator. I had a bit of a test run as well, just to see what the best lengths would be, best shades as well. So I think I've got a good mixture. I'm hoping I've got a good mixture. So yeah, that's going to be next. So I will do that bit next, and we'll see how it turns out. This is the first time actually doing static grass on a layout. I've practiced with it once or twice. I've got a home-built applicator, not a professional or a knock one or anything, just one that I made myself with a fly swatter. So yeah, this is going to be fun. And there we go. If I come in just down to here, you can kind of see that it is stood up. Not as much as I thought it would, but it is definitely working. And especially along there. I think it looks a little bit too clumped at the moment because I haven't obviously hoovered up the excesses yet. It's patchy as well, however that's what I was hoping to get. I didn't want it all completely covered. This is going to be obviously a campsite where people are going to be running about and pitching tents and so on, so the ground is bound to be kind of damaged in areas and more healthy in others than it is in other areas, especially round here where the play park is going to be. So hopefully once we get some scenery on there and some people and some tents, that's going to reflect well. So I've also put some round here. I've made this shorter. My thoughts on it were that this is obviously where the caravans are going to go, so this area might be more maintained than the field where the tents go. So that's a bit more wild, a little bit more patchy. Grass is a little bit longer, whereas here it's quite short. I think I'm going for a 2mm grade there, whereas here is 4mm. But yeah, I wanted this to look a little bit more maintained, a little bit more cleaner, because at the very least, even if the people who own the campsite don't maintain it, the people who are in the caravans might do if they're regulars. So that's my thought around it anyway. So yeah, I've made that shorter just for a bit of scenery difference as well. You can tell from back here that that's a little bit of a variation. Again, there's green patches on the path because I've not quite cleaned it up as yet. I wanted to wait until the grass is completely dried before hoovering it. So yeah, on the whole, first time static grassing, yeah, it went pretty well. I was quite pleased with it. Quite pleased with the effect. I like the look of this. It's really nice. It's better than kind of just having the scatter or a sheet of grass there. So I'm really pleased with how it looks. I think once the hillside gets some on as well and get around here done, that will look really good. It was quite a challenge as well. Every time that I use the static grass, then when to put more in, to remember to hit the tip of the applicator onto the actual the grid. The amount of times that I didn't actually do it, but the amount of times that I almost electrocuted myself was quite worrying. So yeah, I had to keep reminding myself to touch the tip onto the gauze. Because the amount of times I went to touch it just to clean a bit of grass off the tip and suddenly remembered, oh, that's still charged, and touch it onto the applicator and it doesn't have to give off a spark. So yeah, I'm glad I remembered a few times. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the video here, put it together and upload it as I carry on, and I'll continue to bring you the updates. I hope you've enjoyed this one. A little bit more scenery going down. Any kind of feedback or tips or advice around the static grass, please let me know. It was my first time, so any advice would very much be appreciated. Definitely work in progress, but I'm really pleased with the way it's looking at the moment, so hopefully it will continue on. But until next time, I'll see you all soon. Take care.